Hey everybody, it's RJ, your host, and welcome to Hash It Out. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Noah and Marlena Fishman of Zenbarn Farms about the pivotal role of education, advocacy, and outreach in the cannabis, hemp, and local communities. We'll also discuss the recent passage of the MORE Act by a U.S. House panel, how it might impact the hemp market, and more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. Hey everybody, my guests today are the founders of the Vermont-based hemp farm and company Zenbarn Farms. Welcome to the show, Marlena and Noah Fishman. Hello y'all, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, great to be here.
Great to have y'all, And I understand, I'm guessing, like I said, y'all are Vermont-based, so y'all are in Vermont at the moment.
Indeed.
Yep, we're at our home in Vermont where our hemp farm is.
Oh, lovely. Oh, so you guys live on the farm in which you operate. Wow. I love that. And how's life been in Vermont? I mean, I know that's kind of a loaded question nowadays more than ever because, you know, everyday life is a lot more than it usually is. But how has the past better part of a year and a half been for y'all?
It's been pretty good. You know, we've got Vermont summers are beautiful. We're heading into fall foliage, so like the weather's just been awesome. We're starting to reap the benefits of the harvest, get fresh vegetables. We just started harvesting the hemp. Everything's really just like beautiful right now. So it's hard to not enjoy Vermont at the moment, even despite all the challenges we're dealing with.
Yeah, the air smells really good right now with the harvest.
Could use some fresh air, that's for damn sure. Yes, indeed. Now, diving right in, for those who may not be familiar about what y'all are doing over in Vermont, to catch people up here, I understand that in 2008, y'all moved from D.C., from Washington, D.C., to the land where you, Noah, grew up on in Vermont. Noah, I understand that your career in international development and sustainable agriculture took you all over the world before y'all, again, finally settled in Waterbury, Vermont, where y'all started your community-based vegetable farm. So tell me more about how all of this started and then how y'all eventually went from cultivating vegetables to then expanding into hemp.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, you know, I worked in international development work, and that brought me around the world doing a lot of like community-based kind of like, you know, development projects, working for a World Bank, USAID, all these different nonprofits. I wound up back in Washington, D.C. That's where Marlena and I met, finishing up school there. And we were living down there and decided to, you know, we got together. We ended up having our first child down there. And he really pushed us when he was born to kind of get out of the city and wanted to get back to somewhere where we could have our, you know, children grow up running around in nature, and kind of left DC. Thought we'd come back to Vermont just to check it out for a little while. And then very quickly we just grew roots here and started to literally grow things, just playing on our own at the farm. And you know, we ended up building a house back on my family's property, and right from the beginning, we're like, we want to grow food. So we have 42 acres here, so we just started to like play around and get neighbors together to grow food together, and started a little cooperative farm, growing veggies, and it kind of just like went from there, like building the community, starting to grow food, and letting it evolve naturally.
Totally. Well, what is it like? You know, I would imagine that the communities in Vermont are pretty tight-knit. What is it like to be in a community in Vermont, specifically in the hemp/cannabis community, which in and of itself is sort of lends itself to that communal vibe? You know what I mean? Like, cannabis has been bringing people together from all walks of life all around the world to sesh together and join that community. So what is it like to be a part of such a strong sense of community in Vermont?
I think it tied into the way we lived in DC and the way that we always live our life. When we introduced the CBD into our food and beverages and in the wellness studio, people were finding they were more relaxed in their social conversations. They were feeling less pain, so they stayed longer and connecting with more people. And the feedback around that made us decide to expand it even more and be able to extend the wellness side of our business.
I see. And I understand that y'all pioneered a first of its kind CBD infused hemp and drink program in Vermont over at Zenbarn, which quickly gained popularity. And then beyond the menu you have at your restaurant on the farm, you also became sort of a destination for 420 parties and hemp and hops dinners. So tell me more about that. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so we, like, very early on, a few years ago, when hemp became legal to grow and we could do CBD, we started growing it on our small farm, and then we'd bring over and process and create, some oils and extracts we could use at the restaurant. And we were the first place we called Department of Liquor Control because, we have alcohol license, and they're very particular about, anything you can do at the bar, and we had to, harass them for months to say, hey, we want to start including CBD in our bar program. And so we were the first one to get approved to officially do that. We started to do CBD cocktails and mocktails, so we'd include it with our alcoholic drinks and non-alcoholic drinks. And it just became wildly popular, and people loved it, and including many people that didn't want to drink that night or didn't drink at all. And it became a really cool thing. And so, we just saw, it just dawned on us that, cannabis is just such a great fit for the type of community we want to build. I mean, we serve alcohol, we serve great food and drink and all that, but it's a nice piece of bringing community together, having fun, and doing live music and all these things. And so, yeah, we developed that program. We started to do these hemp and hops dinners, which were basically these kind of fancy multi-course dinners that we prepared with hemp infused in each dish. And then we'd pair them with showcasing Vermont's craft beer, which is some of the best in the world. And so we figured, talking to the brewers and talking to cannabis growers, there was so much similarity and so much synergy there. They were like, wow, we got to talk about hemp and hops. And cannabis and hops. It's just such a similar plant, and we can do so much with it from a food and beverage standpoint. So we kind of did a series of events. This was, pre-COVID, where we got to explore, sitting down, having a great meal that is infused with hemp and pairing it with beer at each course and talking about what's going on. And by the end of that meal, everyone was in such a good mood. It was just everyone was just feeling really good and happy. And that just made us want to keep doing more and more of it.
Oh, totally. I bet. I mean, how could you not? How could you not come out feeling happy at a hemp and hop dinner? I mean, that sounds great in and of itself. And I like that you mentioned that you see similarities between the cannabis and hemp cultivating community and the craft beer brewing community. You see similarities between those two communities. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I see that too. And just speaking to different members of those different industries and those different communities, there is a lot of crossover, I feel like, in terms of just attitude and approach to the communal vibe of it all. I also understand that in 2020, along with your team and artist and designer Sean Rice, you launched a brand new CBD wellness product under the Zenbarn Farms name and opened a retail store. So tell me more about what it's like to do anything during the pandemic, let alone start a new brand and open a retail location.
Well, it seemed, in some ways, it was very timely given the pandemic. Lots of people have been like, oh, you opened a business in the middle of pandemic. But it feels like more so that we offered an alternative ways to get through the pandemic and opportunities to stay grounded and be able to heal anxiety or different elements that had surfaces. And people came in for all different issues, having trouble to sleep, trying to deal with stress, and all the anxiety that came around the pandemic. So it was the perfect time for us to open and be available to the community.
And I mean,
there was a lot of unknowns at that time. I think we were sitting there questioning, should we do this? Is this insane? And then, the restaurant was really slowing down, and we went to takeout only, and we had our staff around. We wanted to keep everyone working, so we really just put everyone to work to say, hey, we're going to stick with this. We're going to keep building this business. And in fact, we're going to try to expand and grow and get better at it. So we we put a lot of our people to work to like build out the CBD business and the retail shop, and just like kept our people working, which we were really committed to, like just keeping the train going, you know, despite all the uncertainty. And our staff were motivated; they wanted to work, and so we kept it moving.
Yeah, I think a lot of too what allowed us to like get through it is the community engagement side of it, because at the same time, the restaurants were participating in shift meals, were offering free meals to the community. And then we had the CBD shop around the corner. So even though we were new with expanding our retail store, people trusted our product based off the relationship that we had already built with them through the different community engagement on our farm and education programs, in the restaurant around music and food, and then in our wellness studio.
It really,
attention.
more often than not, it really does come down to the power of the community that you're in. And I mean, if you can, you know, if you can get anything through 2020, then I have confidence that y'all can get through pretty much anything after that. That's for damn sure, especially launching a new brand, opening a store, and really galvanizing that community around you. Speaking more of the community around y'all, Marlena, I want to ask you a question specifically because I understand that part of the Zenbarn Farms story involves what it was like for you to move from, you know, the urban areas that you had known your whole life, again, to that farm community over in Vermont. I understand that it was a big transition for you, you know, not only because of the environment and the setting, but also because you were moving to a largely white state as a Black woman. And, you know, I was born and raised in a small, rural, predominantly white town in the Midwest in Michigan myself. So I just would like to know what that transition was like for you, and in turn, what it then means for y'all to work with an organization such as the Waterbury Anti-Racism Coalition.
Right. So myself, having grown up in Piscataway, New Jersey, which was a very diverse community of all different cultural and ethnic backgrounds,
Sure.
and then being in DC, which was known as the Chocolate City at the time, and then coming here, which is a 180. Initially, I didn't really consider it too drastic of a change besides just the environment, like you said. And then once starting to interact with the people, I come from also an activist background. You realize that just by your presence alone, it's a statement of activism and a form of representation. So it really pushed me to just be open to educating people about who I am, what our business is about, and starting to remove some of the stigmas. And for the most part here, thankfully, what I found was it wasn't like I was dealing with racist people, if you will. It was more so people that were naive or didn't have the experience of being around a black person and didn't have that engagement. So it's been interesting having the conversations. There's a learning exchange that's happening on both sides, and I feel like overall that's what needs to happen in our society to help alleviate racism.
Certainly. It's not always, racism isn't always overt. It can be, like you said, just that lack of experience, that lack of interaction. And, you know, a lot of the times just physically bridging those gaps, just having a conversation and introducing someone to that interaction, I think certainly makes waves. And what is it like for y'all to work with the Waterbury Anti-Racism Coalition? What does that organization focus on?
So we helped, we got together with a group of community members who I think in the wake of like the whole global Black Lives Matter movement felt like we had to do something locally to walk the talk and to try to make some change in our local community. So we started conversations, and, you know, this was over COVID. This was during times when it was hard to sometimes connect in person, and so on and so forth. But a bunch of community members, a lot of whom we've come to know over the years, and friends and colleagues, just decided to organize this group. So we were part of that founding group to say, all right, we need to get some organization together so that we can like support some of the intentions we have in our community and some of the people that are coming into our community and maybe having either a negative experience or not knowing how to address either racist things that happen or how to channel their intentions and energy in the right direction. So we sort of became a clearinghouse for like, what's, is there racism in our area? How does it work? What's going on? What are people saying? There was a few incidents that came up, like, with our local, town officials and schools. And we were able to then start to be a group that could have a cohesive response to either some incidents that happened or to think forward and like, how do we kind of get the school to be more aware and proactive on these issues? And how do we get the local town to get more engaged on these issues? So it's very community driven, community based. And, we've been, it was a good opportunity for us to have another vehicle to do a lot of our activism work that wasn't directly like right in our business, because we do a lot through our business, but being a private business, it's not always the right, place to do that work, we realize. Yeah. So it's been a chance for us to say, all right, let's carve that out, and we can get a lot of other people more involved with this. And then we can contribute back to that group, through our, entrepreneurship, and support them by providing space at Zenbarn for the meetings and doing events that raise money for this organization and start to do some community organizing.
Totally. That education and awareness always does wonders. And it's important for it never to be forgotten. We can never have enough education and awareness out there. That's for damn sure. I want to move on and ask y'all about the latest moves happening in terms of federal cannabis policy reform here in the U.S. The biggest news that has happened recently is the House Judiciary Committee recently passing the MORE Act again. This is the second time they've done it, sending it to the full House for consideration. It's passed through that chamber before, but died last time in the Senate. And although the Senate is now narrowly under a different party's control, as we've seen in recent days, that party has been experiencing many troubles when it comes to keeping themselves unified on any given topic. However, when it comes to how the MORE Act would affect the hemp market, though it centers on cannabis, some are saying that legalizing cannabis entirely holds within it the provocative idea that what distinguishes hemp from cannabis products is strictly the end product THC levels. And then thus the source would then not matter, which means that we could see cannabis-derived CBD products compete with hemp-derived CBD products. Now, we don't know, of course, if that's actually going to happen until that legislation is actually enacted. But what are your thoughts on that specifically? And then how else do you see the MORE Act potentially affecting the hemp market and affecting your company specifically?
One thing I would mention in regards to like hemp and cannabis is that I feel like a lot of people don't realize that the cannabinoids all like build on each other. It's one like amazing plant that has all these different healing benefits depending on the time of harvest and how you let it degrade. Like you have THC that starts to degrade, becomes CBN. So that's important for people to realize, to not start to try to compartmentalize this one plant.
Yeah, I think it's the devil's in the details with this stuff and execution, federal and state level. So, right now we have a lot of freedom to grow hemp and to do a lot with hemp that I think in theory, the idea that it's all one plant is 100% true. And we'd love to be able to do, what we want with the plant and to create medicine and have, no real differentiation between hemp and cannabis. On the other hand, we do intend to work with THC products as well. And we were looking at, my next year having a dispensary, and we're moving in that direction as well. But CBD products, I can grow a field of hemp at my farm here with a very small fraction of the regulations they're going to be introducing with cannabis. So I would be very concerned if federal legislation is going to push states to kind of combine this and hedge it towards the kind of highly regulated, highly taxed system that's going to come with cannabis per se. So tricky, and I would guess, like, on the cannabis side, like, given the premiums on THC and the additional expense to grow and cultivate, they're going to be much more focused on THC. And from what I've seen in states that are more advanced with THC products, they tend to be less advanced with CBD products. In Vermont here, there've been a lot of really innovative CBD products lately, partially because we're all sitting here. That's all we can really play with at the moment.
Right.
So there's some really incredible CBD products, and we're pushing the limits of what we can even do with CBD, and showing some great results. Whereas, like, in many places, they're like, CBD, we don't even think about that, as much. So it's, or you've got the real big commercial stuff, and you've got the craft growers all focused on THC. So I think, like, yes, we want to get there as like the plan as a plan, and it shouldn't be, it should all be considered part of cannabis. But I'd be concerned this act can kind of like push us in the wrong direction too. At the same time, we need some federal enabling legislation for this industry, and we need it to catch up with where the states have gotten for the most part, and where society has gotten, particularly getting people out of jail, and creating a marketplace that's fair and just and compensates for the past wrongs done in this industry, and hopefully accomplishes some real things for some of the things that I think people that have advocated for cannabis have fought for a long time, like, human rights and social justice and equitable access. And, this is and sustainability. I mean, people in this industry have been in a subculture of many things that now are becoming vogue to talk about, like sustainability and social justice.
Time to be empowered instead of criminalized.
That's very true. And we certainly cannot forget those who were upholding the market all the way up until, the state and federal government started to catch up. Oftentimes they are the ones that end up being shut out of accessing the legal market once a legal market is established. When, they were the ones providing us with our herbs all the way up until now. And so we certainly can't forget those people when it comes to establishing legislation in this country. My final question for you, y'all, and again, thank you so much for being very generous with your time today. I'm sure you all have a lot going on over at the farm today. But my last question for y'all before I let y'all go is, what do you have planned for the rest of the year? We are now, we're already in October of 2021. I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. Every day I look at the calendar that we're already here. But we made it this far, y'all. Congratulations. And what have y'all got in the works going forward?
We got a lot in the works. A few highlights. We just launched a new non-alcoholic spirit, which we're really excited about. It's called Yerba, the Spirit of Cannabis. Reacting to like that need for people to come out to a bar like ours and have a non-alcoholic experience. And so we're launching that. We just sort of released that this week. We've got Marlena's been working really hard at developing a whole nonprofit initiative around cannabis equity. We've got a lot of we're building out like the brand and trying to get into more accounts nationally with our CBD products, and then we're really preparing for next year's in Vermont. By next year, we're going to have the rec market come online, and so we're preparing ourselves to move into that space as well. And then in the restaurant, we're also really trying to integrate all the brands and trying to get a lot more going with like building the industry based out of our event, live music, and restaurant space to try to like activate other brands, activate the industry, and do more and more events that bring together cannabis and the lifestyle and the culture, and really get this all to the next level.
Right on. Well, if y'all ever have anything else that y'all would like to talk about, or once these new developments are further in the works, y'all are welcome to come back onto the show. I'd love to ask you, Noah, about all that you've got going on, and then Marlena about that organization that you've got in the works. Once that all is up and running, certainly give me a call. You guys are welcome back to the show.
Definitely, will do. Appreciate you.
Right on. I appreciate y'all. And thank y'all again so much for your time and offering your perspective today. I really appreciate it. Please continue to be well and stay safe over in Vermont on the farm. And hey, if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I will certainly look y'all up.
Please do.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Oh, I love a good farm tour. I'll hop on a wagon any old day of the week. Yes, indeed. Marlena and Noah Fishman, everybody. That is it for Hash It Out, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I am your host, RJ Balde, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace out. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Hash It Out. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure to subscribe and keep up with our Trichomes community app. Download it now for free, and we'll see you there.